Yes, we're back with Finnish Football Show. We've got a bonus episode for you today. This the day after Finland played against Ukraine in the World Cup 2022 qualifiers. So we've had two games now in the last 5 days, and we thought we'd get together and just look back at those two games. And the Finnish Football Show is back to full strength, basically because I bothered myself to turn up for this episode, but I think you'll agree with me that the other boys did a cracking show last week, and it's actually fun sometimes just to duck out and get to listen to the show as a fan of the show. So I'm joined today by Keke. Hi, Keke.
Hey.
And by Mark. Hi, Mark.
Hi.
And by Rich. Hi, Rich.
Hey.
It was quite nice last week because you uploaded the show to our shared drive, and I listened to it while I was walking the dog, and there was all this kind of editor's cut and special comments just for me. And podcasting feels kind of personal when you're listening to a podcast anyway, but when you're actually being trolled by the three hosts of the show personally, it was good. It was good fun. So I think it was good to get a show out just before the two games, just as a preview. And we decided we'd get together after the two qualifier games because on Wednesday this week there's a friendly game against Switzerland. So I think we're just heading to the two games. So back last week, Wednesday, 24th of March. It was Finland against Bosnia-Herzegovina at home in Helsinki in front of a crowd of not many at all because of COVID restrictions. And Rich, you're looking studious. Why don't you lead us off with your thoughts about the Bosnia game?
It was a strange one because I think going into it, there was a lot of hype. I think obviously Finland's results over the last sort of 2.5 years have been so good, and people were reminiscing about the 2-0 win over Bosnia a couple of years ago in Tampere. And strangely, it was weird because it kind of felt like a defeat. I think being at home in this group, you felt like home points are really crucial. Finland played okay. I think it was quite even. The first half kind of ebbed and flowed. Finland started quite well. Bosnia got back into it. And it was just one of those things where I think towards the end, Bosnia went 1-0 up in the second half. A very tenuous penalty. Really, I mean, a handball that 2 years ago wouldn't have been anything, and now they're all given. Come back from 1-0 down to lead 2-1. Teemu Pukki, his second goal in particular was excellent from the pass from the halfway line. The first goal was decent. Alho had a shot, hit the bar and came back to him. But yeah, 2-1 up with, 6 or 7 minutes to go. And a slight deflection on the Bosnia shot, and it went in. And it felt, having led, quite late in the game, that sort of match that you think Finland really need to get points on the board, it was a bit deflating, really. But I think that some of the performances were quite good. I think you can tell that because Rive is still playing with 3 at the back, 5 at the back. He's still working out the system. I think we're coming up to the Euros now. He's still playing with. He had Jukka Raitala as a centre half, and it didn't really work at all. I think I don't want to blame him for the 2 goals, although he did concede the penalty and the deflection was off him. But it's he's a fullback or a wing back. He's not a centre half. He remedied that for the Ukraine game and put O'Shaughnessy there and put Raitala as a wing back. So he's learning. But I think you had some good performances anyway. I think Joronen playing in goal. You didn't miss Radetsky at all, which is a nice thing to say. Bear in mind he's possibly Finland's best player. Kauko in midfield was excellent, playing really well with Glenn Kamara. The 2 centre-halves who are the standards, Ariuri and Toivio, decent, very good. And Pukki at the moment is he's unstoppable. So those 2 goals were fantastic. And I think there were flashes of excellent, but you're really starting to see now that beyond the starting 11 or those first choice, I'm not quite sure the replacements are really what we need. I think there's a noticeable drop off if the first teamer drops out.
Mark, maybe talk a little bit more about the overall performance. I think Rich gave a good summary there of how the game went. What was the the formation, how the team lined up, and how did the game go on?
Well, I'm still waiting for this 3-5-2 thing to sort of click on a regular basis. I mean, every now and again they get into pockets on the flanks where they manage to outnumber their opponents and move the ball really quickly. And when it works, it looks amazing, and it's really sort of incisive, and particularly it helps Pukki get in sort of behind the lines. But it's really rare that they actually get to have like that kind of dynamism. Against Bosnia, the midfield three struggled the whole. I mean, so in the first half, it was Kamara and Kauko that was back, and then it was Oni Valakari. He kept taking up really sort of forward positions to get the ball out, so we could kind of play through. And I think Rive didn't like that because he was so advanced. So he was pushing Lod around for space in the final third. So he took Valakari off and put Schuller on. And as soon as he did, we had sort of a flat three, and we couldn't get through the Bosnian press. So they just sort of sat on top of us and really stifled Kamara, Schuller, and Kauko until the subs came in. And I thought that was a sort of a big problem. So this 5-3-2, 3-5-2 thing, we tend to sort of block the middle of the pitch as well as particularly when you play against somebody like Bosnia, they're trying to block it as well. We played into their hands, we couldn't get around them. So it was really sort of frustrating to see because we didn't make, like, for all we scored 2 goals, I think we didn't make more than 4 chances of any real merit or note. So
you said Pukki did have a couple of really good chances really early on. I mean, classic kind of breakaway one-on-ones.
It could have been a totally different game. So the first one was, I think, second minute, Nico Hamalainen got away from about 3 guys. By the way, Nico Hamalainen looked really good. He's getting sort of stronger, and you can tell he's getting that match experience because I think, I really, really think he's going to be an absolute beast of a player. But yeah, he got him. Pukki had the Bosnian centre backs for pace and basically was able to outmuscle them as well. So he had them all day long, but it was just so rare that we were able to get the ball in behind the Bosnians. It was frustrating in that sense.
There is, you mentioned it often, this kind of really intricate, quick, one-touch football in the opposing third of the pitch, which sometimes when you're watching it, it feels like a dream from where we were like four years ago. It's almost unbelievable. Keke, can you pick out a couple of players that particularly caught your eye during that first game?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think going back to what Rich said, the performance of Joronen. I mean, he's made the initial save at the penalty, was unlucky with a rebound. He's even though the Bosnia's second goal took a deflection, I thought he was very, very close to getting a hand to that. So and as Rich said there, he's to lose arguably your best player to injury and then replace him with someone of the standard of Joronen is like, that's every manager's dream, isn't it? He's I think over the Bosnia, over the 2 pieces actually, he's done brilliant. Also, I want to give Joni Kauko a bit of love because the way that he kept that chance alive when Alho slammed his shot against the bar there. I mean, everyone else was sort of looking, either expecting that would have gone in or just sort of froze to the spot, looking where it was going. And Kauko was alive and kept the chance going, nodded the ball straight back into the danger area for Pukki to sort of half volley home. So I just think Kauko, I can't get enough of him. Big, strong, aggressive player. So I think he did well as well in the Bosnia game. Same as what Mark said. Hamalainen, he's obviously young, still learning his trade there at QPR, but he had a decent game. I thought the first 5 or 10, we looked like, oh, we're going to grab this game by the scruff of the neck and here we go. But after that initial out of the blocks sort of thing, it did calm down a bit, and Bosnia sort of grew into the game. And the stats sort of tell their own story. I think Bosnia had the lion's share of the possession. They had the more shots, the more chances. But yeah, and we've come, and again, as Rich said, we've come away after taking it to 2-1. We've come away with a sort of a feeling of deflation, a feeling like a defeat, where they've sort of nicked a draw at the end. But I think when you do break it down and you look at the performances and the statistics, I think a 2-2 was a fair result, to be honest.
Rich, what about this partnership up front with Pukki and Robin Lod? It's been Pukki and Joel Bockenpalo for a while now, and that was looking good, but there was the injury to Jolle before Christmas, and Robin Lod's played there with Pukki in the last couple of games. What did you make of that?
I mean, I've been a big fan of Lod for years, since he was at HJK. I think it's difficult for him in that he's not an out-and-out striker. He's not. He as a midfielder, he doesn't seem to, as a wide player, it's almost like he can't be pigeonholed, and therefore you're not really sure where to play him. And he has produced his best form in a Finland shirt off Pukki, and especially Pukki in the last couple of years. Where, I mean, we'll go into later. We had a big chat on the WhatsApp group about how many of this squad have developed over a period of time, and Lod, I mean, he's doing so well in MLS for Minnesota. He's scoring plenty of goals. He's really attacking. And I think that partnership, I think, again, it might be one of these that depends on the game, because some games having Pukki and Bojan together won't work. Sometimes having Lod won't work. I mean, we against Bosnia, they started with Valakari up front, which, to be honest, didn't particularly work. I mean, Valakari's a great player and in great form, but that partnership, maybe one day it might gel properly. But a big fan of Lod, and to be honest, if he was the kind of number 10 behind Pukki, I'd be happy with that.
Yeah, neither of them are particularly big, but they play quite a distinctive game, with Pukki always on the shoulder, like he is for Norwich as well. He's always looking to get beyond, and that's where the 2 goals and the other chances all came from. But they were always looking for each other and often finding each other as well.
Yeah, it's good partnership.
And they're both tricky to get off the ball, so they're not exactly strong or big, but they both shield the ball really well and move it around.
Like the old Kenny Dalglish with his massive behind.
Are you saying someone's bum looks big in their hookah shorts?
Well, I say we didn't get sent shorts to try out, so I don't know if they're any good.
Yeah.
Keke.
Just on Robin Lod there. I mean, he's in the same boat as Jukka Raitala. They're both in MLS. That season hasn't taken off yet. So for those guys to sort of start in a game of that magnitude, it's I suppose it's a credit to them for keeping themselves sort of fit in the off season, in the American off season, as it were. So yeah, I mean, I personally was a little bit, are these guys going to be off the pace or whatever because of the fact that they haven't got started in the MLS yet? But certainly with Lod, that wasn't the case at all. I think he was another one who you could say definitely came away with pass marks over the Bosnia game. And just a quick shout for Bojan as well. He didn't quite have the impact that I predicted, but it was his long punt upfield that created the second goal. So I'm claiming that.
Got the assist. Anything else that sort of stood out about the first game on Wednesday, apart from the fact that you're right, it felt like a defeat, even with all the positives there from that game. At the end, it felt a little bit flat, and it felt like that might have been it should have been the easier of the 2 games that were going to be played over this period.
Well, I think it's a bit like Rich said, which is that it's I think we're in a luxury position because it's unusual for us to get to 85 minutes and not see the game out. So for the last 3 or 4 years, we've been in this position loads of times with a slender 1-0 advantage. Maybe we deserved it, maybe we didn't. But almost every time we've been able to just sort of knuckle down and see it out. And this time, I think it was just a case of there was too many at the back. So Raitala was one he was not sure about where he should be. His position wasn't great, and I think his tackling was also not good. Nikolai Alho as well defensively was not great against Bosnia. So I think there was a bunch. I mean, for the penalty, I think it was, I'm right in saying that he headed it vertically up. Like there was a cross came in, he sort of blindly stuck his head forward to hit it, and it went straight up in the air, and then came back down. And Raitala went to go for it, then it hit his arm, and we got a penalty. But there was quite many instances where we just didn't look quite solid enough at the back.
Did we get to the bottom of the problem with the broadcasting of the games? It's been on via free, which it has been in the last few years as well. But I had all kinds of trouble trying to get logged in. I'm in Finland trying to log in to watch the game. Keke's found his way to watch the game eventually on his phone. I ended up watching this game on my phone, which it's just horrible experience, like sitting there trying to find a way to hold the phone in front of your face without having your arms in the air for an hour and a half, and it's, I don't know, it's just difficult. I found it difficult to really get into the game in the same way because I was looking at this little screen in front of me. Anything come out since then?
I haven't heard anything. I mean, I it's on Sky Sports. All the qualifier games are on Sky Sports over here. I don't have Sky Sports because I'm tight, and I use my mate's password. But it turned out that using the Via free over here with a VPN was still quicker than watching the Sky Sports one.
Okay.
On the iPad, so I ended up watching it on that. So it would just be nice to watch a game on a telly. I was saying, at least we get the free games in the summer, I suppose. But I'm used to watching them on the iPad, so it's fine.
Yeah, and I did actually see friend of the show, Larry from Assikort, posted something online saying that if you can't, I think it's something along the lines of if you can't get to watch the game, try the Safari browser, which when I then did we tried about 4 or 5 devices in my house and none of them would work, and apart from my phone. And it was only 2 days later that I realized, oh yeah, that was the Safari browser on my phone. So we went straight for that on Sunday and connected the laptop straight into the TV. So it was that was okay, but it was weird. It was weird that it would only work on certain browsers on certain devices, because in the past it's been a decent service.
Via Free Suomi's got a Twitter account. So next time you're having any bother, just give them a hit, because I think there's about 4 or 5 people that there's the technical support and a bunch of others actually kind of keep an eye on it.
Oh, okay.
So you never know. So you can either follow them or just give them a buzz and say, hey, Via Free, sort it out.
I'm not sure how that'll go down. I'm in London trying to watch your broadcast via a VPN, and it won't work on my iPad.
All right, I tell you what, Keke, if you're having trouble, you tell me and I'll tweet on your behalf.
Yeah, oh dear. But no, I managed to watch it on my phone, and I'd have preferred a bigger screen. But yeah, I don't pay for Sky Sports either, so it serves me right.
Well, if you want a bigger screen, you need a bigger phone. Buy t-shirts. That's a good opportunity. Let's take
perfect segue.
Let's pause there and take a commercial break. Right, and the commercial break is going to be for our web shop. Now, Keke, let's have a word about this web shop. You've got a lovely t-shirt there. Show the boys and girls your t-shirt.
So I am wearing the Finnish football show Hulkajat host t-shirt. So you've got Hayton there. Who's that? Wiltshire. That's me down there, Mulari. And then you got Nelson, number 14. So soon enough you'll be able to purchase these on our web shop.
Well, you see, I too have got my new Finnish football show merchandise on.
Not sure about those colours.
Now, Keke, if anyone's listening would like, this is the team colours. So we've got I designed. I actually sort of set up the Finnish football show logo design in all the colours for the Veikkausliiga team. So you could buy a t-shirt in your team's colours. You can support the Finnish football show while supporting your team while you're at the Veikkausliiga. Now, Keke, where can people buy these T-shirts?
I'm not sure at the minute. No, we're. I'm currently working on getting the tpublic.com shop back up and running. So yeah, look out for the links across our social media networks, and yeah, we'll. By the time the next show comes out, I'll have a full address for you.
Keke, would you like to explain why you're not able to provide people with a full address now? What happened?
I think I infringed an Adidas copyright. So if anyone from Adidas is listening, I'm really sorry.
Yeah, they came and took the one off my T-shirt.
Yeah.
Also, if anyone from Sky Sports is listening, also sorry.
Yeah.
If anyone from anywhere is listening, we're sorry.
No, don't worry, boys. No one's listening.
Oh, dear.
So yeah, there hopefully will be merch soon.
Yeah, coffee
Or
mugs
you can
as well.
just give us money.
Yeah, that's the point. Yeah, well, that's the point. So there were in this design that I'm wearing, I set it up so that there was apparel, various sort of hoodies and t-shirts and things. There were mugs, and there were also face masks. And the way things are going when the Veikkausliiga season opens, and I just held back from ordering my face mask, but it was this. So it was the Ashley Core gold, and the whole mask was going to be gold with the logo on the front, and it looked like it was going to be awesome, but I just decided not to get it.
Oh, gold
now
member.
We can't order anything. Sorry, Rich?
Gold member.
That's me. Thank you very much. Okay, let's end the commercial break. We'll let you all know when the merch is back. Okay, let's head into part 2 and talk about Ukraine 1, Finland 1. Maybe Mark head off with this game.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the interesting thing was before the Ukraine game, after Bosnia and after the Ukraine had nicked a draw in France, everybody was expecting that this would be like a bloodbath, that Ukraine would come out of the traps and press high, be really energetic, really kind of put Finland under the cosh. And I think, first 5-10 minutes, nothing happened, nothing materialized. So Rive stuck with his sort of 3-5-2, which I think also surprised a lot of people because we thought he was going to revert back to type after the Bosnia game. But the big sort of press and the big energy that we'd expected from Ukraine didn't really materialize. We had a number of good chances again in the opening exchanges. So Pukki got in behind, I think, twice again. One with a good body work from Albin Granlund. But Granlund himself, he took a corner to the face and had to go off with a concussion, which I thought was a big shame because he'd been playing really well. I mean, he was only on, I think, 15 minutes or so. I think he took it in the face on about 10 and then sort of staggered around for about 5 minutes.
It was an interesting situation, really, because it travelled from a long way. Didn't it? Did it come straight in from the corner, or did someone kick it at him from closer by?
No. So it came in from the corner, but he got sort of sandwiched in the run up. So he went up to sort of try and head it, and the Ukrainian lads were pushing him along, and he just sort of got ragdolled a bit towards the ball, and it sort of hit him on the side of the head as he was going the other way. And he looked, I mean, he got back on his feet and he tried to shake it off and keep going because it seemed pretty tough like that. But I think after about 5 minutes, I think he innocuously just sort of hunched over and said he started to make signals that he couldn't see straight.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was the ball that hit him as well. It wasn't a head or an arm or anything. So it's interesting or unusual to see a player get that affected with a ball in the face.
It seemed to affect his vision more than anything. I don't know if I'm not a medical expert on anything, if that's a sign of concussion or whatever. But I just thought I was fearing the worst, thinking, is that slam to the face sort of detached his retina or something, because he seemed to be really struggling with his vision, and he was visibly upset at having to leave the field. It was he tried his best to carry on, as Mark said, but I think he was he didn't want to throw the towel in and leave the field, but he sort of understood for the good of himself and the team it was the right thing to do. But he was I think there was tears before bedtime. There, he was visibly shaken at having to leave the field after, as Mark said, playing an excellent first 10 minutes. So hopefully it's nothing too serious. I haven't seen much come out about it now, other than he's left the squad and been replaced by Thomas Lamb, I believe. So we just wish Albin all the best. Hope it get well soon.
Yeah, Mark, carry on after that first 15 minutes.
Yeah, so after that, after 50 minutes, after Alho came on, again, I think we got a little bit sort of stuck. Alho's his positioning was never really reliable. He never quite knew where to stand on that right flank, and it's a strange thing because as we get to later, after we score, he always seems to know where to be, but as soon as he gets onto the pitch and he has to do a job, he sometimes kind of makes it difficult to find his right position. After that, we didn't really create anything, and Ukraine sort of slowly started to make more chances and kind of control the ball. Although I thought really they didn't do us any real damage. I think we had one or two areas, two flaps around in the box when we sort of struggled to clear it. But in a similar way to Handel and Dzeko, Arayuri and Toivio did a good job with that. I think it's Yaremchuk was the guy, the big 6'3" Ukrainian centre forward. So we managed to handle him, and it was a bit of a, it was a game of attrition. It was one for the purists in a sense. It wasn't particularly entertaining to watch until sort of the latter stages when we made a bunch of substitutions. They brought on the two Brazilian lads and Kovalenko, and that sort of switch from having that big heavy target man to having sort of a couple of relatively quick technical players did us in a bit. They got in behind O'Shaughnessy and then whipped across in for a tap in for the opening goal. It's one of those ones where the ball was just worked really well. Like every gap was a couple of like an inch wide, and they hit every pass, hit every turn, smashed it across the box, and it was an easy tap in. So it was a well worked goal that you concede at the top level. And I thought after that we came to life, right? We just sort of switched on all of a sudden. And we had, I think, 3 or 4 chances in a matter of about 5 minutes. Arayuri, he was a stud away from connecting to a cross, a la Gaza 96, and then he hit a smashing header from the corner onto the post.
Yeah.
And then I think Lod had a free kick from distance and a breakaway, and there was a couple of others before before the craziest penalty conceded I've ever seen.
Rich, do you want to give us a bit of a commentary of how the penalty came about?
I mean, this was after, as Mark said, a period of pretty sustained pressure. I think Ukraine suddenly realised, right, we're 1-0 up here, let's shut up shop. Finland come out all swinging, and again, like the second goal against Bosnia, it was a long ball over the top. The defence were on it. They had the ball. And this is where my kind of point around the development of players comes in, because the Teemu Pukki I think we used 2015 as a guide. Yeah. He would have quite easily chased that ball down because that was his skill. But, in the 88th minute,
yeah,
chasing this ball, essentially had no right to win it because he pressed and hassled the defender into, it was an absolute rick. He's tried to play it back to the goalkeeper, stumbled over it. Pukki's taken it off him, and then he's just kind of fallen on top of him, face first into the turf. And the referee at least he gave him a couple of seconds before he waved the red card at him. But
on the edge of his own 6-yard box.
Well, yeah,
walking off.
It was a comedy defending. It's the sort of thing that you'd laugh if Finland did it, but it's one of those that Pukki won that penalty fair, by hassling, by chasing, by pressing, everything that, in the second to last minute of the second international in 4 days, he's still doing it.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things. It was nice to get the rub going our way for once, because they've generally been on. I'm not making this a conspiracy, but you do kind of feel like sometimes perhaps the decisions go the other way more often than not.
Well,
So-
I mean, so Raitala's penalty against Bosnia was unlucky because it was really soft and it hit his arm. There was a similar case in the Ukraine game where I think it was lodged to Pukki and there was an interception. The ball bobbled up and it hit the Ukrainian defender in the arm in the first half. And you think, well, if there's any, I mean, it's not a penalty because I mean, if I was defending, if I was playing and that got given, I'd be livid. So I was kind of happy to see it let go. But by the same token, Raitala got punished for the same thing a week before, and you do think like it's not a conspiracy, but they do tend to stack up those things.
But this is the thing now, where and as Cristiano Ronaldo found out the other night, because there isn't VAR in these qualifiers. I mean, I'm not saying there should be, but you kind of think there is in some game, like the finals, and it is a kind of top level players are now used to VAR.
Yeah,
and to be honest, Finland are supposed to be getting it in Veikkausliiga next year, so we're at that point where would it be given? Who knows? I mean, there's a thing, but I mean that was the most stone bunker clear stone wall penalty you'll ever see, and they earned it through hard running, through clever pressing of that defender, and made him make a mistake. And it was a fantastic penalty as well. I mean, that's a player at the peak of confidence, at the peak of his powers. I mean, he's never played better than he has now. Yeah. And the 5 or 6 years ago of Pukki, that would have gone at the keeper.
You could have told that keeper. You could have said, "Look, I'm going to hit it hard, low, bottom left," and he did. He did not got there.
He could have stood there and not kept it out.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, what about some of the sort of standout players in this game? I don't know if we've had this conversation on here before, but Mrs. W said to me, she said, You always go on about Glenn Kamara, but I don't see what he does. He doesn't seem to do anything special. I disagree with that, Keke. What do you think?
He's a Rolls Royce of a footballer. He's just absolutely fantastic. As we mentioned the other week, which is why it was such a surprise, but wasn't a surprise the way he reacted against that awful abuse he had the other week, because he's so calm. He's calm, collected. He doesn't panic. You can't really ruffle him. He's just an absolute Rolls Royce of a footballer. I mean, I think it was the Ukraine game. A couple of the guys are around him, and he just it was a little drag back and a little sort of back heel into the path of one of his teammates. He's on another level for me, Glenn Kamara, and I just think, with him on the pitch, you've always got a chance. He's a destroyer. He doesn't mind breaking up the opposition, but he's a creator as well. He's just coming on to be the perfect midfielder, I think.
Yeah, and he's being targeted now. So against both Bosnia and against Ukraine, there was 3 guys on him. The second he got the ball, they need to lock him down. So
he still comes out of it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that article in El Moletti. I think they were kind of looking at now where Finland sit in the kind of European football table, where they are. And it was kind of suggesting, and we touched on it last night, but where now teams are now planning to how they play against Finland, how they deal with certain problems. And obviously Pukki's the main one. But Kamara is the one who engineers a lot from midfield, and by nullifying him, and he probably by his own admission didn't have the best 2 games in the last week. I mean, he had moments, he did quite well, but you can see definitely both teams now, and I think this is going to become a thing, where we're in a group where France will probably win that group. Kazakhstan will probably finish bottom, but now you've got 3 teams all very close, and you're thinking now it's going to be lots of draws, goal difference might come into it, and all this to come into second place. And now Finland are seen as maybe not a threat, but they're looked at something you have to take them seriously. You can't let them, because maybe this was the element of surprise that they had in the Nations League and the Euro qualifiers, that teams didn't take them seriously enough, and they counter-attack and they do stuff that they weren't used to from Finland. And now all of a sudden they are a bit like, okay, we need to look at how we deal with this. And I think we're seeing that now, especially this season with Kamara being targeted. I mean, Pukki, whatever plans they put in place didn't really work, because he scored 3 goals, could have had 6. and was dangerous throughout both games. But I think that's something we're going to have to kind of get used to now that they've kind of moved up that level, and perhaps we're going to see teams now, with a game plan to stop them.
Be interesting to see what Glenn Kamara does next season for his club side as well. Obviously, he's had a couple of really good, successful now, a championship winning season with Rangers up in Scotland, and they had a decent run in the Europa League as well. Do you think he'll move on?
I personally think he'll hang about for another season.
Okay.
I think the Gerrard factor is massive in that. I think them being in the Champions League, winning this season's championship, being in the Champions League next season is also a factor in that. There's talk of a new contract for him. So if he gets those three things, Champions League football, to stick around with Steven Gerrard a bit longer and a nice fat pay rise, then I don't see why he would move on just at this moment. But also, I think if Rangers and he perform in the Champions League, anything like they have in the Europa League, that just opens the shop window for Glenn Kamara even further. And then I firmly believe that Europe's elite clubs will come looking for him.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking that he should leave Rangers because of what Rangers is as a club. It was more about the competition and just stepping up that consistent, better quality opposition. But you're right, Champions League football could well be the next step, and then you've got to play. Then you've got to play a kind of playing at the highest level, around which Finland can build its team in the future. I think. Does anyone have anything else to say about this Ukraine game, or should we talk about players that are developed and maybe players that are, coming towards the end of time in the team?
Just one point I wanted to make just on the Ukraine game is it was as the boys have touched on, especially Mark there. It was kind of a tough watch at the start. We seem to sort of invite them onto us as a I don't know what do these tacticians call it these days, a low block, isn't it? Is that what they call it? But like we seem to sort of and I'm no football manager, that's why I'm here, and Rive is in charge of the national team, but he seemed to sort of, and looking at it, when I was watching it, I was thinking, oh my God, what are we doing here? Keep inviting them onto us. But he must have looked at that Ukraine side, realised that they could do that, sort of invite them on, and we could deal with whatever they had to throw at us, and then try and get them on the break. But it was interesting, as the guys have said, how as soon as Ukraine did get that goal to go 1-0 up, it was like someone flicked a switch. All of a sudden, here we go. And it just does make me wonder, what if we'd have, this is typical fan talk, but if we'd have gone for it from the start, what might have happened? But I don't think we can complain too much with a 1-1 draw away in Ukraine.
And also, would we have gone for it in the last 10 minutes if we hadn't conceded that goal? Because you'd like to think, okay, you've held them off 80 minutes. Now let's go for it. Let's win the game.
Yeah, so before we conceded, the last change we made was Robert Taylor coming on. So our midfield three of the five was Kamara, Ludd, and Taylor.
Yeah,
and that's not like, so there's only really Kamara that can sort of think defensively or act defensively in that group. But it's one of those things. It's easy in hindsight to say that we should have or could have done something a bit differently. But the one thing that I will say is that when we put them under pressure for 10 minutes, it didn't take long to break them. And I think we had, if Paulus's header, hits the other side of the post and goes in, it's a different story, I think. So we could have I think damaged them a lot more. And I'm optimistic about the home leg.
Well, I think with the way the results have gone, in that we're going into, there's now 5 months, I think, until the next game in the group.
Yeah.
Finland, second after 2 games, but it's going to be that close. You're going to have Bosnia, Ukraine, Finland duking it out for that second spot. Going into it, you've got 2 games, 2 draws. They haven't lost. That's the main thing. If they'd lost to one of those 2 teams, there's already a gap. I don't know, because Kazakhstan aren't a bottom seed, are they? They're a 5th seed because it's a small group. So they're not a San Marino. They're not a whipping boy. They'll be, they're not going to be cones standing there waiting to be taken on. So it'll be interesting how that goes. But if that next round of fixtures, I mean, if they beat Kazakhstan at home, which fingers crossed in September, suddenly, get that bit of momentum going. And that's what Finland did well in the Nations League the time they won 2 years ago. They got momentum and that took them through. And I think if they can go into Kazakhstan, hopefully get a good result there, and then, because you've still got to go to Paris, you've still got to go to Bosnia. You need some points on the board before that. And I think, we've got the Euros, we've got God knows how many friendlies before then as well. So it's a jam-packed year. And I don't mean to segue onto the next subject, but as we discussed last night, I think there might be some changes in personnel in the squad between now and by September, certainly by the end of this campaign.
I think we. Sorry, Mark. Go on.
Yeah, just before we do, I'm fascinated about Wednesday night in the rest of the group, because I look at France, and Kazakhstan, and I think France struggled against Kazakhstan. Right, like it was a 2-0, and one of the 2 was an own goal. So I mean, they dominated possession, but it was only a 2-0 win. Now France go play Bosnia, and Ukraine go and play Kazakhstan. So we get to find out, are Kazakhstan more organized than we think they are, or are France having maybe a bit of a wobble? Because I look at, Ukraine went to France and took a point. We beat France, 6 months ago.
France drew Luxembourg a couple of years ago at home. I mean, obviously Luxembourg are one of the best teams in Europe now after beating Ireland. But it's I shouldn't laugh being Irish. But no, I mean, France in qualifying do stutter quite a lot.
Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, even the World Cup that they won, they weren't the best. I mean, they didn't play that well during the tournament. And I mean, obviously the best team, but I think that they weren't the kind of, when sometimes you get these swashbuckling teams that go and win a tournament. They had a few stumbles there too. I mean, that game against Argentina in the second round, phenomenal game, could have lost and could have gone out in the last 16. So I'm not, obviously they're beatable because Finland beat them 3 or 4 months ago, but it's, for a world champion team, they do have these moments. They do have a moment there. So yeah, by the end of Wednesday, then we're going to this big gap. We'll see where the table lies, and
I think
maybe. Sorry, Kiki.
I was just going to say there, just touching on France just quickly, as we've seen, like following Finland and being lucky enough to speak to people in and around the camp, and we've seen firsthand that there's no egos in that squad at all. These guys are down to earth. They're all in it together. There's such a team spirit amongst that squad, and I'm not sure you can say that about a team like France. Do you know what I mean? And I think that goes a long way when it's 11v11, and and it's 0-0 at the start. I think that goes a long way. So yeah, we'll see how we get on in Paris.
Yeah, maybe we'll have a few minutes about what we expect from the Switzerland game just at the end. But Rich, what are your thoughts about players that maybe have developed nicely, and those that might be coming to the end, and I guess also those that are coming fresh into the squad recently?
I think Pukki is the example I'll hold above everything. I think a lot of it is the various choices he's made at club level. He's found somewhere. I mean, he had that spell at Schalke, Celtic. People thought he was a busted flush. I mean, he was still young then. I mean, he's 31 today as we speak. But his form over the last, we count his time at Brøndby as well, but he's had 2.5 years at Norwich. He's been phenomenal. He's now the second leading goal scorer for Finland. 5 or 6 years ago, when he played for Finland, he was like a golden retriever. He'd run around up front. Everything was, his movement, his attitude, everything is great. Couldn't finish. Absolutely, you stick him in front of goal and you think, oh, come on. Now, I would say you bet the house on him, because he still does have these, he almost needs a couple to get his eye in. But he scored 3 goals in the last 2 games. He's now 2 goals behind Jari Litmanen in the men's scoring charts. His development, and I think, you could say it with any player, but I mean, whether it's fitness, confidence, he's made the right decisions, but he's a different player now. He's become what I didn't think he could do this. To be honest, I wasn't sure about him however many years ago, but the last 3.5 years, he's just been phenomenal. And we talked about it on our WhatsApp last night. Kauko was a name that came up as well.
Yeah.
These are players who, they didn't emerge as these sort of 18, 19-year-olds that some countries have. And, Finland, when Pohjanpalo came through, I think a lot of people thought he was the next, I don't know, Ronaldo, like original Ronaldo or Michael Owen or something like that. And through injuries and club choices and stuff, that hasn't really worked out either. But, there are players in that squad who have grown into being very, very good international footballers.
Another good example is Joona Toivio. So Toivio was, when he was a young centre back, left back, defensive midfielder, good on the ball, good in the air. He used to hit those howitzer free kicks from 40 yards. Something he's still trying, which I think he should stop because it's been a fair few years since he's done it. But Toivio was one when he was at Djurgårdens about 7 or 8 years ago. Everybody thought this kid's going to be like, next Hupia, next top quality international defender. And then he moved to, I think, Molde in Norway. And for about 3 or 4 years, in the national team, he was the guy that stood beside Niklas Moisander, who basically just held Moisander's beer. And you kind of always had that thing that he had a rick in him. He was not 100% reliable, and he did flatter to deceive and got caught in possession. He, in the last couple of years, since he moved to, I think, Häcken, since he started getting regular games at Häcken, he's just matured as a player fantastically well. And you look at him and Arajuri next to each other at the back, or Shaughnessy as well, as a really, really good addition to that. They look, almost impenetrable. Dzeko, world class. 35. Okay, so he's the other side of the hill, but he's a top quality player. They kept him. He got nothing. He got nothing in the Bosnia game. And this kid, this Yaremchuk guy, he's 1 and 3 at the international level. He scores 1 and 3. And again, they got no change out of them. Arajuri as well. He's always been. I think Arajuri has always been a bit of a bull and a top quality player. But Toivio in particular has really matured into a nice commanding centre back who you've got faith in.
Do you think some of these players might also get moves like Arajuri, for example, is playing in Cyprus at the moment with Onni Valakari. Now, no issues with them playing in Cyprus. They both got very nice suntans as well when they turn up in Finland in the middle of March. But these are players that are, especially Arajuri, I'm thinking now, he's an established international defender that's playing well. Couldn't he be playing somewhere stronger?
I think he could. He moved to Cyprus from Brøndby, but I think, I suppose at that age it's a difficult choice, right? Because is someone going to take a chance on a 32-year-old sort of centre back? Probably not. And if I look at if I'm in Paulus's shoes, Cyprus is the kind of place where you could play for another 3 or 4 years, and probably maintain your international level and your competitiveness. So he looks. He looks as sharp, if not sharper, than when he played in Brøndby. So I think, I'm happy if he stays there. He was, I suppose, back when he played for Poznan, he was an absolute monster. That was when he was probably in his prime or in his peak. But I think he'll be pretty happy in Cyprus for the foreseeable.
That was his 50th cap yesterday, and Toivio's also got over 50 caps. But that partnership that they've got together, name a better pair. I'll wait. Do you know what I mean? It's just like they're phenomenal. They're phenomenal together, and I think there's a lot to be said for that understanding and that partnership that's developed. Do you know what I mean? It's all right having players at more established or better clubs, but they might not necessarily have the understanding that these two have got together. You know, I think that goes a long way.
I think this team is built on a lot of partnerships in that team working well. I mean, you've got a quality spine, and I think, like we said, I mean, we haven't mentioned Tim Sparv, and that's where we'll come on to probably shortly. I mean, he got his 80th cap.
Go on to it, Rich. Carry on.
Well, I mean, Sparv for probably 18 months, 2 years has been carrying a lot of niggling injuries. He's looked like he's 34 now. He's now playing in Greece and not getting a lot of game time. He's been carrying these knee injuries, and he's at that point now where his role in the team has been as a great partner for Kamara. And I think Kamara's played well with Sparv because they complement each other. Yeah. Sparv, as an individual, he's not really been around enough because he's been injured. He's not getting regular minutes. So it's difficult to see, you know, and he's made these comments about, you know, is his Greek club right for him? There's all these rumours. I mean, I didn't realise they were managed by Gianluca Festa, who used to play for Middlesbrough. Yeah. But there's all this stuff, and you get the feeling that, you know, at what point, and this is where the weird calendar for this year comes in, because of course, you know, Finland, after I think they failed to qualify for the last World Cup when Moisander stopped playing, Hetemai stopped playing for different reasons, Eremenko stopped playing for very different reasons. They had a bit of a change where these sort of squad rotations were forced on them, and it worked out really well. Normally after international tournaments, you get a glut of international retirements because it's a new cycle. This one's weird because we're halfway through a World Cup qualifying campaign, then the Euros start. And I think we're now seeing what is coming after. I mean, Sparv has had that many caps. He's been the captain for years. He's been a regular in midfield, and they're now almost struggling to find the best pairing. At the moment, it looks like Kauko is working well with Kamara. Schuller, not for me, Clive. And there's other players like Rob Taylor. I think he's a great player, but I don't know if he's the sort that will complement Kamara, because Kamara is going to be the number one name in the midfield anyway. So I think it's something they're going to have to, I'm sure they are planning long term, but you know, this is where these friendlies suddenly have some use.
Yeah, I'm fundamentally sure the reason we're playing sort of three at the back in a 3-5-2 is simply to try and find a way around the hole that Tim Sparv left in the side, because Kamara and Sparv sitting in front of the back four, they both sort of improved the robustness of our defense, and they allowed a lot of other players to just move forward and take up sort of wide attacking positions. And since Sparv's stopped playing more regularly, since he moved out of Midtjylland, it's putting somebody next to Kamara that can help get the best out of Glenn, because Tim was just brilliant at his positional sense was fantastic. His tackling was brilliant. His range of passing was brilliant. And in a sense, Kauko and Schuller are like the two pieces of Tim Sparv in a sense, right? That sort of physical, good positioning, good defensive sense, and the ability to pick a pass and sort of get about. I don't think either are quite there yet. I'm also, I want to like Rasmus Schuller. I really want him to work. But I think, particularly in the Bosnia game, he gave the ball away a lot, and he has this habit of winning the tackle and somehow not winning possession that he needs to get past. But I hope Mr. Festa Senor Festa gets his
Uncle
act
Festa
together in Greece, Uncle Festa, and starts putting him in the side, because I think particularly after the campaign we had, Sparv, he has to go like to the Euros. He just has to go.
Yeah, you couldn't deny him that after what he went through getting the team there. You couldn't deny him the chance to. Obviously, it's been delayed, but you couldn't deny him the chance to lead the side out there. Just on the Rasmus Schuller point, I think I think we need to give him a bit of a chance. He's moved to Djurgården in Allsvenskan, and I think we can all agree that is probably, albeit a small step, but a step up from Veikkausliiga. So I think, you know, if he's getting regular game time in Djurgården there in Allsvenskan, we might see him come along a bit. So yeah, I think we need to not give up on him just yet.
Yeah, and he did play. He played a lot better against Ukraine. So in the Ukraine game, I thought he was much improved. And I think, was it the France game as well where he was impressive. Yeah. So he's not a bad player. He just a couple of areas. It's just, well, Tim Sparv's shoes are big shoes to fill.
Yeah, I mean it is an interesting thing. You obviously there's players are not going to go on forever. There are going to be international retirements for whatever reasons, or even the manager's going to phase them out slowly. But I think we're in a decent position where we've got a crop of youngsters coming through. I mean, obviously we've got our mate Sauli Väisänen, who's unfortunately still coming back to full fitness at the moment. His brother Leo as well. We mustn't forget them. They were in and around the squad before they got injured. I mean, O'Shaughnessy as well, young lad. He's I was just looking. He's been at a fair few clubs, Daniel O'Shaughnessy, and you look Cheltenham Town, Brentford, Braintree. He was in Metz in France. Yeah. But he's come back to Hoyikor and turned himself into an international footballer. So fair play to him as well. Yeah.
Does anyone want to just throw forward a little bit to the Switzerland friendly on Wednesday? Any expectations? I don't think predictions necessarily, but any players you're hoping to see or think we might see?
I think it'll be all change. I think it'll be all change for both sides. So Switzerland, they beat Bulgaria and they beat Liechtenstein before today. Their manager, Stivkovic or Stivkenko or something, can't remember his name. He's been in the press saying that he's going to give this young keeper a chance because they've got Sommer, who's the number one, who's got 60 or 70 odd caps, and they're going to give a new lad a chance and a couple of others. So I'd imagine the likes of Zakaria, Granit Xhaka, Shedrin, Shaqiri, they'll probably won't play. They'll probably be warming the bench.
It's a shame for Finland if Xhaka's not playing. He's been dog whatever for Arsenal. So speaking as an Arsenal fan,
I suppose there'll not be any requests from Arteta to save him. They'll be just
let him play.
Tire him out.
Do you think, guys, that Jordan will stay in goals, or do you think one of the others might get a look in for this Switzerland game? Be interesting to see Eriksson have a look.
It's a strange scenario because you think Jordan, I mean, he's pretty much the set number two. Mayenpo is there as kind of, it sounds awful to say a cheerleader, but the experienced pro. He's available. Eriksson, I don't think many people would have seen him as that next, as a potential number three. But obviously with Jakala, was he not available was he injured this time as well? I can't remember.
No, he's not injured, but he's playing for Bristol, but it's League Two and he's 34. So
maybe he's still on his extended paternity leave. I think that was why he missed the last squad. So I wonder, perhaps I'd be surprised if Jordan played. I think after two sort of full 90 minutes of competitive games, and again Pukki, but they've all travelled, which is half the issue, I suppose. The clubs aren't going to be happy, especially. I mean, my Twitter's now full of Norwich fans over the last 2 years of people worried that Pukki's going to get injured, but he's played 90 minutes twice and run for 90 minutes twice. Yeah. He's now travelled to Switzerland. Presumably he's not going to play, but I don't know. It's just this strange window. I don't know, having a third game. I know why they've got it, but it's just for players like him, you think he could probably do with that rest. Especially with, he's still got a busy. I mean, Norwich are likely to get promoted back to the Premier League. But yeah,
I mean, I can't see Pukki playing, but I think that the only sort of spanner in that works is after the 3 goals, he might be looking at the Switzerland game thinking, I just need a brace, and I've got Litti's record. So,
well, he's come out and said last week if he doesn't break the record this year, he'll be disappointed. I mean, he only needs 2 to equal it, and in a lot fewer games as well. I think when he equaled Forsell's record on Wednesday, I think they'd had exactly the same number of caps at that point. Obviously, Forsell kept on playing for another couple of years. But I think, Littman and 2 more goals. I mean, he's got how many more games this calendar year? 8, 9, possibly. So
yeah, he will do it, but I wouldn't expect him to start. And then also you've got to think Raitala hobbled off, Granlund's left the squad, Schuller hobbled off, Kauko had a knock. So I think anybody that put in a proper shift in these last 2 games will probably get bench warming for the best of it. I would like to see Jolle for like an hour or more, and I'd like to see Force as well, like get a good stretch, because I thought his games in the end of the last year, France in particular, I thought he was really good. So there'll be a lot of players there chomping at the bit that want to get on, that want to play. So
yeah, even if it's a sort of not first choice team, it's not necessarily a weak team. That's a big difference nowadays.
Yeah, Robert Taylor only got 10 minutes, something like that. I think that's a crying shame. He's a hell of a player.
I mean, when he played it, I mean, when Taylor, I know he doesn't play, but his games in the autumn in the Nations League, he played really well. So,
and we've forgotten about Burusoiri.
Yeah,
it was like 2 years ago. It was a goal every other game. Like he was on fire, and
he's in the squad.
He seems to be suffering from this formation as well. Being about as close to an old school winger as there is in the squad, and now that there's wing backs, he's the sort of player that in a 4-4-2 would, make great hay. And all of a sudden now it's, he's getting sort of minutes as an impact sub. If that, I mean, he's not come on in the last couple of games, has he? So I think, that almost collateral damage.
And is the game available to watch in the same places via free over here?
Yep. So it's via free over here, for sure.
I doubt it'll be on Sky.
Yeah.
But
so
their contracts
free over here as well.
Get your VPNs out and your Safari browsers, and away you go, everyone. I think that's it. That this nice short review of the last 2 games has lasted the best part of an hour, just as Mrs. W predicted. So maybe we should knock it on the head now.
What does Mrs. W reckon the score's going to be against Switzerland? Then?
I haven't asked her. I'll have to edit it in after post production. I'll get her predictions and edit it in.
Our predictions for the games went quite well this year.
Yeah, you got the last one.
Well, yeah, yours did.
That's why he mentions it, I'm sure. All right, Keke, thanks for joining again. Nice to see you.
No, thank you, guys. Cheers.
Thanks a lot, Mark.
Cheers.
And thanks a lot, Rich.
There you go.
Remember to follow Finnish Football Show on whatever choice of social media you prefer: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, in various different guises. You'll find the links in the show description for today's episode, and I guess we'll be back sometime in April, perhaps to do that Veikkausliiga preview show. Now that the league's been pushed back a little way, we'll look at the transfers and maybe some predictions for the new season. So until the next episode, thanks for joining. Bye-bye.
Yep.